Hi, and welcome back to week 2 of 4x4 Tech Training. My name's Larissa.
I'm Jackie.
And I'm Randy.
Same old crew. And this week we're talking about Survivor.
Randy is a super duper Survivor junkie.
I've watched every season. Yes, I am a Survivor junkie. And one cool thing they do on Survivor is a game. Actually, it's many different types of games. But they typically do a game where there's questions asked. Sometimes they're questions about things that have happened during Survivor. Sometimes it's questions about the island that they're on. But these questions could obviously be about things going on in your classroom. So what we've decided to do is put together an assignment for you where you would create a Survivor type game for your classroom. Your students would get in groups or in small groups, so they could be working by themselves as well. But in most cases they'd be in a small group. And a question would be asked in the front of the room by you at the smartboard, much like this one. And the group would come up with an answer. And the first group to come up with an answer would raise their hand. And the other groups would finish. And the first group that would get their answer up would be able to get the points if they got it right. If they get it wrong, the second group goes, and they would get the points, and so on. So there are some variations of that in the way that we would play it. And we'll go over that towards the end of this. But for now, we should try putting together one of the games.
Let's actually take a minute and look through this Survivor game.
The Survivor's great game is great because it actually has 5 questions built into it, and then on each page you'd ask the question, and then once your teams have answered, this torch here will link you to a scoreboard page. That way you can keep track of which teams are still in the game or which teams have points depending on which version you're playing. And then it'll link you back by pressing on the number to the next question in order that you want to go to. And this is what we're going to highlight, having you guys practice for this week's tech training, is building pages and then building links to be able to create this Survivor game.
And really, the hardest part of this for the teacher is coming up with the questions. Because after you set up one of these pages in your scoreboard, you could recreate this game over and over and over again, just by changing the questions.
Absolutely. I had one file, I made it once, changed it for every subject, and just saved it as Survivor, absolute values, Survivor, radicals, so
And the
forth.
students really appreciate it. It takes something that could be a bit mundane and really helps with test review and getting them ready for what they need to know.
Excellent. Let's go ahead and create one on our own. All right, this is exactly what you'll do this week to turn in. I'm going to open up Smart Notebook, and the first page will just be a title page. So let's go to the internet and find a nice Survivor logo. I'm going to go to Google. Yes, if I can.
Now you can get fancy and do an image, or you can be plain Jane and just do a background like Randy would.
Shanks Survivors.
Whatever works for you is fine. The key to this is really just building the template for you to use in your classroom.
Right. So you should only have to do this part of this once.
Okay, so on Google Images, let's go to this Survivor image, and make sure you go to full size if you want to use it. And no?
It's perfect.
It's perfect. I'm going to resize this page, and I can just drag and drop it on my page and then close the internet window. Actually fits perfect.
Like I said, perfect.
Okay, so we're ready for another page. Let me put it right
And to
there.
do this next page, because you're going to want to probably keep your icon on each page, you could just right-click on the first slide and say clone.
Yep, just go to clone. And on the second page, I'm going to click on my Pages tab, and if you click on the image, again, you can just have a plain background too, but if you go to the Formatting tab, you can make that image a little more transparent, so it could be in the background.
This way when we put your questions on top, it won't be so blended into the dark picture. And then once you're happy with where it's located, I suggest that you lock it in place before you go putting text boxes in there. Just because as you're building, you may move it on accident. So go down to locking, and then lock in place.
Excellent. So we basically have set up our question page minus the question.
I'm going to click on the text box and type a question. Let's see, what is
The square root of 4.
the square root of 4? Okay. It's a little hard to read, actually. I'm going to unlock this background and see if we can't make it a little...
You could also, if you'd wanted to, if you didn't want to have anything behind it, you could make it really small and just put it up in the corner.
I think that's a better way to go. Why can't I see the transparency?
Doesn't like you right now.
Okay.
There you go.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah. There it is.
Oh, there we go. I'm going to go up to Fill Effects, bring it back, and then I'm going to right click on the background, go to Set Background, and just give it a background too. These guys don't agree with my choice of backgrounds.
We all have our own style. It looks great.
All right.
And speaking of style, because now that you have created this page, you've gotten everything laid out the way you want, or they might want to spend more time doing it, you can go back to your slides and just basically clone this page to however many questions you want. So we're going to do 3 questions for our demo. So if you could just clone that 2 more times for us.
And before we clone all the pages, this will be our link to the scoreboard. So let's just add one more. Clone this page 1 time.
Twice. We're going to have 3 questions total.
Yeah, but we wanna put all the links in before we go cloning it.
So we cloned the page. There's 1 page here. I am going to go to this 3rd page, which will be the scoreboard. And for now, let's just write scoreboard or score. Okay.
So now, before we go cloning a page, we actually want to set this picture to be our link to our score page before we clone. Because then once we clone it, that link, we won't have to do it over and over and over again. So if you right-click or click the drop-down menu and choose Link on your picture or object you want to use as a link, we're going to choose Page in this file. And it's really nice because they give you a little thumbnail of what it should look like. So you're going to choose the last page in your file, which is going to be your score page, and make sure that it says that. And then I always like to choose the object. That way you just have to click anywhere on the picture and it'll become a link. Once you're good, you click OK. So now, when I hover over this picture, you can see I have the pointer finger. When I click on it, it'll link me to my score page. So now we can go back to our question page and clone this 3 times, so we have 3 questions. And now each one of those pages is going to link to the score page. And now we just have to go in and change what's on our questions.
All right.
So let's change this one to be perfect squares. We'll just keep it going. And now we have 3 questions, and each one of these pages should link right to our scoreboard.
So, and for the scoreboard, it's pretty basic, right? We just need a place to keep our tallies, but we also want our scoreboard to link back to the next question. And there's a savvy way of doing that, right?
Yeah, there's not really a button that you can put in that'll just link you back to the next question in the file. So we'll just use text boxes that have the number question on it, and then we'll use those text boxes to link back.
Brilliant. Let's set it up.
All right. I'm just going to do this quick. Score. And if you go to the drop down, you can clone this. Teams. Actually, it should be the other way. Teams. drop down, clone this one, and put questions over here.
Alright, so now that we have that, we're just going to dump in a text box and put our question numbers on here. So just put in number 1, and then I'm a shortcut kind of a person, so I'm going to clone this. So Control D or right click clone, and just change it for each question that you have in your file. So if you have 15 questions, you should have 1 through 15. You've got 3 questions, you should have 1 through 3.
Hey Jackie, this is kind of time consuming and annoying to do, but after you do it once, you don't have to redo it every time. So
Yeah.
it definitely takes you a few seconds to set this up, but after you're done, it's something that you can use over and over again.
Absolutely.
And this one will
It'll
be
be
your
worth it, too.
own. There's a lot of templates already created, but you will know how to fix them and create them now.
So now I'll hit the drop down menu on this text box, number 1, and I'm going to choose link, page in this file again, and click on this. This is the title page. So it's always the page after, the number after what you're doing. So since it's question 1, it should be page 2. And you'll see that. Choose object and click OK. And just repeat that process for each one of these. Page in this file. This should be question 2 on page 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then click OK.
And if you wanted to, you could go through and name each one of your pages so it's less confusing.
Yeah, that's actually a good suggestion. And now this will link me back to question 1. This should take me to the score page. This will link me to question 2. Back to the score page, question 3, and back to the score page. And you can keep going for however many questions you have in your file.
Nice. Let's go ahead and on this page, you can just click right what Randy said on the typing below and name any of the pages. So I can double click on the date and just put 1, 2, and the scoreboard. Wow, we're getting there. Now, when I played games, we usually broke up into groups, and then the students would write down the answer, and at one time, when you stopped the questions, everyone would put questions up, and all the groups would put their questions up at one time, so it wasn't a speed, a practice in speed. That's one way to play also.
Another way you could play is make it a speed game. First team with the correct answer gets to vote out a team from the game until there's only one team remaining.
And the other way you could play is that nobody is voted out. So if 3 groups raise their tablets that have the right answer on them, and 2 of them get it right, and the other group gets it wrong, the 2 groups that get it right both get points, and the other team doesn't get points, and the first team that gets to a certain amount of points wins the game. The bottom line is, you're all smart teachers. However you would like to play the game, you can. This is just how you set it up.
Yep, and we have a reference sheet up on Schooltown that has the 3 different versions, a little clip of what a scoreboard could look like for you, or how you could play that in a little bit, just a snippet on how to play that game, and that's up on the Schooltown website for you.
So this week's assignment is to take the information that you have learned throughout this demo and come up with a title page, at least 15 questions that you are going to use, and a scoreboard, and make sure your scoreboard links back to the questions. And as a little bonus that you would receive absolutely nothing for doing,
Praise, Randy.
other than praise from us, is to, if you have time this week to complete the task early and are able to use this in your classroom, we would love for you to post to the discussion board as to how it went.
Yeah, and even tell us about which version you played and how, if you liked it, you didn't like it, how it went.
Excellent.
Don't forget, on Thursdays we have the help from 4 to 5, and feel free to email any of us or post to the discussion questions, any questions that you may have.
All right, we look forward to hearing from you.
Take it easy.